Welcome everybody. Alrighty. Let's put this in chat. I want to give a big shout out to our regular contributor, Dave the Philippian, donates $10. Thank you so much. Alright, so where did we leave off yesterday? By the way, the ribs are feeling a little bit better. Gotta go take my wife on tomorrow for her second day of lessons skiing. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to seeing everybody at St. Herman's in Kalispell this weekend for the Sunday of Orthodoxy, and then the wonderful little free ski vacation I have up in Whitefish. Yeah, okay, so this is weird. Wasn't I up to 14K? I don't know what's going on. Like, okay, maybe if I was more regular, I got it, but I'm down to like 13K. I need you guys to spread the word. Like this video, subscribe if you haven't. Let's get those numbers back up. We talked about whether animals, how do I know animals are not rational? That was a good. We talked about what did we talk about yesterday? How Origin was condemned in the 5th and 6th ecumenical councils. I think I misspoke yesterday at 6th and 7th, but I meant 5th and 6th. Then we had the Origenist David Bentley Hart worshippers who had their David Bentley Hart dolls come in, and the trolls. We had a Mormon person come in. We had Transformer community came in. All this because somehow I'm getting, because I'm friends with Jim Bob, and then Jim Bob gives always a shout out. I'd like to give a shout out to Jim Bob in return, made by Jim Bob. I get his trolls, and he does have some fantastic weirdo trolls, and so that was kind of interesting. I want to thank the mods yesterday for staying on top of things. You guys are great. All of y'all are great in the chat. Yeah, he loves his troll. It was fun for me too. Like I really enjoyed being insulted. I'm not joking. It's just so silly that it didn't actually even bother me. Remember the one guy said, oh, I remember. We did a critique of anime and other childish things. Let's put away childish things. We talked about how starting in the 90s and even seeing the rave scene, the kind of programming of infantilization, returning people to a permanent state of being a child, and how I think that we've never seen this in the history of the world before. I think it really did start in the 90s, to spiritually, emotionally, intellectually keep people immature, that may be easily manipulated, and that this began around the 90s. I saw elements of it in the rave scene, and again, it's crazy. Like, we've never seen in the history of mankind, people who are 17, 18, 19, in their 20s playing with dollies, and have a whole cult of cartoons and, all these different things. And then what happens if you criticize somebody's addiction? They lose it. They insult you. It's a cult. And so, again, there's nothing wrong with if you want to watch anime once in a while. Like, sure, It's a little bit weird that if you're an adult or near adulthood, um, but maybe keep that private. The other thing too is we see in our generation is that kids don't leave like they're completely dependent on the parents. And look, this is no fault of your own. This is like we did it to you. Like we created this. It's very unfortunate. Um, but the great thing is you can transcend that. You can break out of that. One of the things that we might actually deal with at the Montanica and Therapia, one of the things I know that my godfather Gary and Father Hans in the St. Paisius Brotherhood is the young men of our generation have not become men. So Father Moses talks about this. Let's grow up. Let's get these young men to actually become men. Let's have rite of passage. Let's have them do something. Let's have them create stuff. Let's have them not be dependent on the parents, living in the parents' basement throughout their 20s. Unless, it's absolutely financially necessary, something like that. And so you want the best for somebody and you criticize, childlike behavior when they're near adulthood or actual adults. And they lose it. They lose their mind. You saw this yesterday. And what I found was funny is that they were like started making fun of my beard, which you can do. I don't care. I give you. But what was weird is they were like, having a beard is childish, which I know is exactly what something a stupid child would say. Because guess what? That's the one thing that probably isn't childish. The one thing that children can't have is beards. We talked about, yes, Natashki, young men becoming more effeminate. We didn't talk about the rise of tism and these various things. What else? We talked about oh, you should have seen it yesterday. It was oiled. It looks perfect when I come out of the shower and I do the nice oil. Do you know what prayer like? Let me see. It's obviously the Psalms. It's from the Psalm. One second. Where is it? I know it's Psalm 133, but it's during the fasting prayers. One second. Yeah. I don't say this because I don't have a stole as a deacon. That's the priest. But when he puts this on, blessed is God who pours out his grace upon his priests, as myrrh upon the head, which runs down the beard of Aaron, which runs down even to the hem of his garments. From Psalm 133 too. Isn't that cool? I like that one. Yeah, did you see Um, the one thing that we actually were talking about on the X Space about these guys who we talked about Prelist on the X Space. Um, we also talked about wanting to the proper kind of formation spiritually when entering into the church, that you don't jump into the most difficult stuff. Start with the basics and you add on. And what we get a lot is people who are prelates, and maybe it makes it even more difficult having a bit of the tism, which a lot of these people did. And they were unwilling to, they wanted to argue everything, and difficult stuff. And then they're unwilling to be corrected by clergy and guided. And just like Brother Nathaniel, you see now, who looks like he's apostatized. He's left, obviously, Rocor. I think, we don't know if he joined a schismatic or something like that. But he's now saying that theosis is not in the Bible, and that he's going to be the new Martin Luther of the Orthodox Church. And all y'all young people who thought he was so base, and I kept, warning you about him. Now, you saw the stuff where he was creeping on those little girls, those young girls, 18-year-old girls, as a monk. And now he's, Martin Luther. And it's just, like I told some of the young guys up here, I'm like, have I ever led you astray? Trust me. All I want is the best for you. I mean, you're free to do whatever you want. But I have experience. I can see, and use discernment to be like, this is not somebody you want to follow. And it was just like, you call out the tribe, and it's like everybody's critical thinking turns off in the fall. Oh, this guy's so based, and walks straight into you. And I was like, be careful. This is not who you want to follow. And again, the issue with the guy that wrote the hit piece against Jay that was in our server, I even had him. He could submit. Anybody can submit, by the way. Any Orthodox Christian can submit an article for review to Patristic Faith. Doesn't mean you're working with Patristic Faith or anything like that. It'll be reviewed and put up. And he had a decent article that we put up. And then he'd volunteered to basically help do some editing and reviews. I didn't know that this individual, he said he was in seminary. I figured that, and this was my bad. You learn from your mistakes, and you have to do more background kind of checks on people. But I assumed if he's in seminary, he's been at least Orthodox for 3 years, because that's usually the requirement. And he was new. And what do you see? Somebody has a little bit of the tism, is new, and they jump into, they think they're so smart, and they usually are fairly intelligent. But not learning the fundamentals of the faith and doing it right, and not receiving guidance and instruction by clergy. And what happens? They were confusing catechumens and inquirers with stuff that was not Orthodox, and they just wanted to argue it. Orthodoxy is not Protestantism. It isn't just, well, we just argue the case and let the best argument win. That's a very secular mindset. Now, there's nothing wrong with arguments at the right place and the right time. But there's an order, there's hierarchy, there's a life, there's an ethos of the church. And what we see is these people are not part of that. They're not part of the ethos. They're not listening. What is heresy? It's not getting something theologically wrong. It's an inability. It comes from pride in the heart. The inability to receive instruction and being corrected, which is exactly what you see. And then what happens? It goes immediately, the person had to get booted. Why? For the betterment and protection of the Discord community, the young people kind of learning stuff. When somebody was unwilling to be corrected and was teaching heretical ideas, so then they get mad. That's another sign of sin, the pride of, and went on a tirade of libel and lies and wrote a hit piece, only to become, as we see, what did we say? Pro Skittles. Eventually, these people apostatize. Notice the theme. I'm the one that's going to reform the church. Everybody else is wrong and I'm right. And I'm smart enough. Okay. So that's recent news. Who's Ferguson? Yeah, how anybody wants to be... Because you're faking gray and Skittles, probably. That's why Roman Catholicism looks cool to you. Or you've got Tism. What is Roman Catholicism? It's a big abstract... It's abstractionism. It has nothing to do with the world. Or history, for that matter, because it doesn't look like anything like the first century church. So what do? You create a big, elaborate, abstract Dungeons and Dragons theological game that you can play in your mind. It's this ethereal realm that has no contact with the world, actual living saints, history, and if you got a bit of the tism, those ethereal, abstract Dungeons and Dragons theological games are really appealing. Never heard of Gregory B. Sadler. We did a... Yeah, notice how these people that hate Jay and they're so angry. I can't imagine spending this much time like thinking about... I feel bad. These people, these trolls and different people that it's like they're in chats and groups just talking about how much that they hate somebody living rent-free in their head. Like, Jay's living rent-free in their head. Like, that stinks. I don't want to ever have... God help me that if I became so obsessed with somebody that I'm... What did I tell you demons are? Demons are real estate agents. Getting you to take out real estate and waste your time in imaginary places. Let's do a review. Let's see what's going on in the Facebook world. It's a kick of land. It's really interesting to see the temptations and the passions, given the stuff with Zelensky and the Ukraine, stuff like that, people losing their mind. So I've been happy to say that I've been muting people, or what do they call that? Snoozing people and unfriending, just for my own spiritual, it's unhinged. It's absolutely crazy. And it's just so clear that it's Lenten demons. That, again, I'm like, gosh, can you imagine spending this much time wasting getting upset with Orange Man bad? Well, should we take a review of... Sometimes we do Twitter reviews, but I kind of enjoyed Facebook. There was a lot of good, happy Facebook posts. I know how normie it is. Yesterday, that filled me with joy. And there's a lot of things to be thankful for. I want to give a happy birthday to my godfather, Gary Metz. God grant peace, health, prosperity, and the furtherance of all good things to your servant, Seraphim, Gary Metz, and preserve him for many years. God grant you many years. God grant you many years. God grant you many, many, many years. God grant you many years, Godfather. Okay. Ready? Window capture. It was a happy thought 14 years ago. And that must have been Ireland. My buddy, Mr. M, he had passed away. He passed away on my birthday. Here I got I can see my laptop, and I'm probably working. Man, right before I submitted my thesis. How crazy is that? That's my apartment in Ireland with the Christmas tree. Aw, buddy, miss ya. Trinity College, Dublin. Got a big snow, I remember. That was our apartment. I mean, that was a huge... Dublin never got snow, so that was a big... This dude built an igloo outside. He had his duvet. He was actually sleeping in... Maybe he got kicked his... Like, he got his wife, man, got kicked out, and he was like, I'm building an igloo out. It was literally... This is right in front of our apartment. I thought it was really cool. This guy literally is... This is right in front of my apartment. Here was the Catholic church right there. In the road. This was amazing. I mean, like, the whole city shut down in Dublin. There's not the BART, but the DART, the Dublin transit system there, and even the lake had frozen up. This was all walking distance from my apartment. It was really cool. Everybody's coming out. A little boathouse out there on the lake. Here goes the DART. Right there. That was a real gift from God. You know, it was a really depressing and dark time. My wife was totally permanently disabled. I didn't know. I'd run out of funding. And student loan, I couldn't take any more student loans. It had been 6 years I've been working my PhD. I didn't know if I was going to finish. We weren't Orthodox at the time. And then God gave a little gift like this. One of the best Christmases. And there was a snow, and it just changed, like the whole, like a little castle left remnants here. The ambience and just the Christmas spirit just filled the entire Dublin city, and it uplifted my spirits. It really was a gift from God, so I thank him for that. And good memories. Can't believe that's already 14 years ago. Pasadena, that's cool. In fact, I grew up back here off the Highway 2 at a ski resort, so I'm very familiar with this area. Anybody's in that? Dispensational bingo. Whoa, prophecy fulfilled before my eyes. Schofield Reference Bible. I gotta save this. This is great. Russia and Iran, blood moons. We lose down here. Revive Roman Empire. Left Behind series. Current dictator is Antichrist. Third Temple. Rapture ready. 7-year tribulation. Here's a free space. God's chosen people. Helicopters. Gog and Magog. End times charts. Radical Islam. Millennial reign. America's role. Mystery Babylon. Signs and wonders. Mark of the beast. Christians say one way. Jews another. Pray for peace for Jerusalem. How funny is that? That's hilarious. Alright, I gotta save that. 1 second. I'm gonna check on you guys in the chat, but that's hilarious. Save image. Dispensation. Well, obviously that's going on my Twitter today. Pictures. All right, what are you guys doing in the chat? Looks like we got some super chats. Let me read them off here. Bobby C donates $5. Has anyone comment on Pints Aquinas with Eric Ybarra talking about the issues with the Orthodox communion with heretics? Somebody did. I just saw that yesterday. And I can't remember who it was making a comment on. I have no idea what happens to cat. Like, I hope they're resurrect. I hope their pets are. That would be cool. There's, the legumina arguments that could be made for that. "2010, Crispy, yeah. Do you remember that? Do you remember? So Crispy's from Dublin too, so he knows that area. Marion is the area, Dublin 4, right there on the... And then that goes down to, what is it, Booterstown? I'm trying to remember. They have the shops down there. And then I lived right by the golf course. I can't even remember the golf course in Marion. Elm Park was the name of those apartments. Yeah, did you see that there was a tropical palm tree in one of the pictures? It was crazy. If you remember, like I said, Dublin rarely ever gets snow, and that was a lot of snow. The whole city, like, people just parked their cars and were... It's like what I heard happened in Texas this year. Oh, you're in the Northwest Coast, but you know Dublin. Yeah, okay. Because of UCD. All right. Let's go back. We'll probably depart in 15 minutes. Is that okay? Yeah, I would find like the Facebook, like, normally it's not interesting, but let's do a review of our Facebook. Face Off. Oh. I want to show. Speaking of Face Off. Man, I just had I had the Nick Cage movie up here. Maybe I accidentally closed it. Alright, never mind. Okay, let's go. That's cool. That's here in Helena. That's pretty good. All right. Yeah, like I said yesterday, everybody for the most part, except you got Sister Vasa and the usual suspects, who are probably paid agents. That worked for Mike Pompeo and others, and NATO, um, and possibly some other agencies to perpetuate their lies and to through legacy media. Um, yeah, U.S., EU, NATO, WF, World Economic Forum, all those, to manufacture your consent to support a this idiot here. There's my college right there. World Engineering Day. What is this? Philosophy by hand. How do you do that? The power of myth and page. What? Uh-huh. Alrighty. That's all I need to see right there. Alright. Billy Strings. Shout out to Billy Strings. Love Billy Strings. Got the Masons up here. Billy Strings. Thank you. Shout out to Pasca Press for sharing our morning prayers. Saints Unite Us from Orthodox Ethos. St. Gerasimos the Lion. Must be on the new calendar. How are we going to go from Trump going to start World War III to now being mad that Trump isn't? Good point. The Blackfoot, one of my favorite rivers to fish on, right here. And where is this? It's kind of cool. Is that for real? That place looks pretty sweet. Oh, it's a Big Sky. I've yet to sit Big Sky. Those tickets are like $200 a day. Yeah, see, it's just amazing how stupid people are. 10 years ago, these are the bad guys. Now they're heroes. Alright, let me try to figure out where this picture is. Does that look like... It looks like Redondo Beach. No, Hermosa. What's your guess? Or... No, hold on. It could be Corona del Mar. I'm going to say Corona del Mar. Let's see if we can figure this out. Alright, come on, Corona del Mar. Oh, it's San Diego. Let's go. Ah, man. I missed out. I just kind of want to check out Finland. Any Finnish people? Homer, Alaska, the Salty Dog Saloon. That's hilarious. Oh man, that looks so good. Especially during Lent. This is Grace, Bishop Gerasim, who I saw a couple weeks ago. Oh my gosh, look at this. They actually have a Flintstones town in North Dakota. Pray for this monk, Nectarius, Lord have mercy. Sin is not necessarily the breaking of a rule or regulation, it is rather a thought, word, or action that by its very nature separates us from God or one to another. Good, let's talk about that. I like that. That's a good talking point. Let me just check and see if you guys got any more super chats. And then 6 more minutes. And we'll... Somebody had asked, there were several kind of things that went into this category. Like, is smoking a sin? Is pirating a sin? I'm trying to remember, like, there was a list of... Steve the Church donates $10. Thank you. Thanks for what you do, Father. Besides Catechism book, what would you recommend? Baptism, St. Athanasius on the Incarnation. There. So, I took this question. What do? We would talk a little bit on Twitter X Space. How do I lean not on my own understanding? What are things as Orthodox we do to avoid prelist and to acquire the kind of ethos of the church? You participate in the sacraments, the life of the church. You serve coffee hours, serve if you can sing, clean, serve in the altar, alms give. Are you guys involved in any kind of food share or something? We've got a food share thing. We're bringing food for the needy and the poor, the homeless. Those definitely some kind of basics, regular confession. Seek your spiritual father or your father confessor's advice. Seek multiple counsel from priests. So that's what I did. That are these things a sin? Are these actions? Now, like a lot of things, it depends what we mean by the word. Sin is missing the mark. Okay? So almost everything we do is probably a sin in that sense. But the fathers that I spoke to said, typically what we mean by that is like we saw in this... I just lost it. The thing that I shared. Is it a soul-destroying action? Is it destroying your community and the family around? Like, those are things that the priest wants to work on. So, what do you have? I want to show that what you want to avoid is the orthospurgism legalism, where everything's a sin, and notice, why are laity giving spiritual instruction, telling you what sins are on Twitter, and why don't you just like fasting talk to your priest? Like, why is this so hard? Just keep your mouth shut about these things. Focus on your own sins with your father, your spiritual father and confessor, and stop going around and being like, that's a sin. Well, remove the plank out of your eye. So for the most part, I'd asked, these things. Let's just pick on smoking, for example. Because there are, one of the things is you're going to get different opinions on that. But the priests I talked to, they're like, usually not. It's not something that we would consider a soul-destroying action. It's not good. And we want you to do better. And we can work on that. Don't you notice the difference between the legalism? For example, every Lent I fail in some way, and I have shame, and I go to confession, and I confess my sins. And Father Russell says, well, what did you learn? You can't fail. You can only do better. So now there's a sense of like, you missed the mark. Okay. But do you notice the break from the legalism? But you can't fail. You can only, God allowed this. You can only do better. That's not to sanction the wrong thing. So with these things, again, if it becomes one of the things, and we talked about maybe even doing a Montanica next year, to be released from captivity. If you're being held captive, right? We went over a lot of different things, ways that you could be held captive. It could be a soul-destroying action. It could be in the sense of the sin that the Father wants you to confess. But think about how absurd, if you took the just kind of strict notion of missing the mark, everything would be a sin. You'd have to go in for, you become like Martin Luther. You become insane the way the sins aren't, as one priest said, a list of rules and ledgers in a law book. Well, you've been found, here's this and here's that and stuff like that. And what's making you sick? And I saw this, like, people lose their mind yesterday. Some lady, I thought it was actually, she says, things worse than cigarettes. Porn, vapes, obesity, and weed. And I'm like, those things to me as a clergy present far more soul-destroying possibilities than somebody that occasionally might partake in tobacco or something like that. And why people lost their minds. So I'm just picking on that because it's an issue that like we had some of the other day that was like, well, Father, isn't that piracy that I showed my students a free movie? Piracy is actually uploading, not downloading. So no, not in the sense of, but suppose it were. Like, what kind of category is it? A soul-destroying action that I need to go to confession for? Is it destroying the community and the souls around? Like, and I started thinking about all well, Father, the person says, it says to obey Scripture says to obey the laws of the land. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's true. But again, isn't there nuance with this? So, do you know there's some states it's illegal to spit on the ground? So, they're not going to probably do anything. It's just on the books. Let's say you do that. Do you need to go to confession for? Do you know that it's illegal to switch lanes without the turn signaler? The Bible says you're supposed to follow the laws of the land. Do you have to go to confession and be like, there was nobody around, I wasn't thinking, I should have been, I missed the mark, I didn't turn my turn signaler on, Father. I'm a sinner. Like, think about how, it's totally autistic. It's not a healing model to, so one thing we can do is understand that. Again, like Father Andrews said, people can follow all the rules of fasting and gain weight during the fast. So what's more important? That you followed all the rules but didn't keep the spirit of it, and now you're obese? Now you have an actual sin that... That's what I mean. So when we realize that, first of all, this is legalistic, these people are coming from a very kind of Protestant, legalistic individual. They're prescribing what's a sin to them, and everybody else is pharisaical. Why don't you keep your mouth shut and talk to your priest? Maybe it is a sin for you. I don't know. Maybe it has held you captive. Maybe smoking's a sin. Maybe you should talk to your priest about that rather than going out on Twitter. And maybe you have a problem with breaking laws and a general disrespect for, and that's so these things might be little things, but there's a more kind of underlying general. Maybe that's something you should that actually needs to be confessed. That your spiritual father, your priest, needs to decide that, not you. You're not in a position to. And again, with these things that are possibly not in the category of are they sins, right? Because I cherry picked and I found some elder church father that said it is. He doesn't know you? Like he doesn't. I mean, how could it doesn't make any sense to do that? Talk to your. What do we always say with the fasting, with all these things? Talk to your priest. They'll know. They know you. And then it might be something like Father Russell, Father Andrew said, like, it's not good. You could do better. I wouldn't put that in your place is it's not healthy. Okay, so we'll get you there. We'll get you better. We'll. But think about this. If you open the door that you're going to start criticizing people for this being the use of tobacco being a sin or something like that, then you just open the door for like, well, let's go through your entire diet. I guarantee you there's things that you are doing in terms of eating that are far worse, both for your soul and your body then. So I'm just picking on that and a couple other things to show that a kind of legalistic mindset. I'm not making any claims on what is a sin and what isn't. I'm just relaying you. Again, all these things technically in the sense of missing the mark are, but as far as what you want to confess, I'm not saying what is or isn't. I'm directing you to your spiritual father, to your priest, and I'm giving you a warning about what Pharisaical legalism is and that it's not a healing model. And the church and Christ just wants you to be healed. So that's my message for Lent, for today. Yeah, isn't it funny that... And what's really sad when you see monastics that are obese, it's like, there's a perfect example. You're fasting, like, for what like, now you're obese? Father Russell's always like, look, here's the general template for fasting. Don't make yourself sick. Don't. Right? Don't do this alone. Talk to your priest about that. Like, I'm gaining weight. I put on, like... All right, I gotta go. Now, I'd certainly say theft definitely is something that you... yeah. That's as far as physical theft. One of the things I brought up with piracy too, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's theft. But because it doesn't fit the traditional definition of theft being a physical, something physical that could be depleted or actually physically removed, it's more difficult intellectual property and immaterial ideas being... It's not as clear. Maybe what I always say is don't go to unclear things, right? You're going to go on the internet and start condemning people for piracy when is theft, when that's a hotly debated that's not clear. Maybe just stop doing that. Focus on the things that are clearly... Yes, stealing the red ball from Target outside is a physical... That definitely qualifies and should go to confession. Christian Prepper donates $9.99. Thank you. Taking to my priest later this week about how to get more involved in church. How to best approach this conversion because I have no idea what to do. Very good. There you go. Go make Patristic Faith products. Go talk to your priest. Almost in every situation, right? Go talk to your priest. What are they going to say? Thank you, guys. God bless you. Thank you for those who joined in prayer. Please keep me in your prayer. Let's keep all of ourselves in prayer, and that we may have a good Lent. And till tomorrow, God bless you and keep you and give us strength. Amen.